Going back to some of the earlier sources, what exactly is the Seder Tannaim ve-Amoraim? What is that?
Okay, so, and I developed this idea, by the way, Robert Brody in his book on the Geonim, and myself in my own book, we developed the work because Jewish history, as much as we focus on Jewish memory, right? Memory is very important. Zachor, we remember. We have Pesach that remembered the Exodus of Egypt. We have Purim, and all the holidays are forms of memory, of Jewish collective memory. We have very little work done on history. History was never viewed as something important. Yosef Chaim Yerushalmi, his seminal work called Zachor, discusses it. And therefore, we don't know the Talmud. Imagine, we have been learning the Talmud for over 2,000 years, and almost 2,000 years, right? 1,500 years. And we don't have any history written how it came about to be. And it's appalling, right? But that's it, because we didn't have Jewish history. So the earliest work that we know, they discusses about the Talmud, but basically as a chain of transmission, right, is Seder Tannaim ve-Amoraim, which is a Geonic work. It's unclear how it came to be, and probably it is a very confused work, and it's difficult to understand. And most scholarly opinions, including myself and Robert Brody, it's probably the version that we have is a compilation of several versions put together. So it's not even one work, but it is a chain of transmission that talks about the Talmud and how the transmission of the Talmud came to be. But it's not a historical work. It doesn't tell you about the process. And because it's a composite or some kind of a mosaic of different works, it's actually very confusing. So it doesn't add much. But this is the first Geonic work, which is basically somewhere around the 10th century that talks about the Talmud and the first kernel of ideas of how it came to be made as a work that we see today.
And what does it say? What does that kernel tell us initially?
It's unclear. I think that it leaves you more questions than answers. It does talk about the role of perhaps the different Amoraim that had the Amoraim or the sages of the Talmud, that they have probably a more prominent role, like Rabbi and Rabbi. It does say about that. It talks about a section or a group of rabbis that came after the Talmud called the Savoraim. And he says that this group existed. So between the Geonim and the Amoraim, which is the Talmud, the sages of the Talmud, it creates this new category of rabbis that basically breach them, called the Savoraim. That is an introduction, not an idea. This was brought by Seder Tannaim ve-Amoraim and stuff like that. But very clear. It doesn't tell you a story, only tells you bits and pieces and kernels of ideas. Very hard to use and to come up with anything really of substance.